Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks, well, they're available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload. Shall we? All right, so I had an upload all set up mentally today. There's a subscriber that I have been meaning to get in touch with, and they sent me an email right after the live stream. And in my plan of attack, I was going to text this person, Jacob. He knows exactly, all I need to say is Jacob, and his ears will probably pop right up. I had it set. It was in my calendar and everything. I was going to text him around 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and see if he was willing to do an interview. So instead of that, I got a phone call, and I don't answer. One, I don't give anyone out my everyday phone. I have a phone directly into just right for my channel, specifically for this channel. And I don't answer phone numbers that I don't recognize. So I get a phone call, and I have that spam block. Many of you guys probably know what I'm talking about, where probably 80% of the phone calls that I get on my everyday phone are spam. And then my mom, dad, and kids. So I get this call, and it doesn't come up as spam. Comes up Colorado. So I don't answer it because I'm like, it's probably, a spam call, telemarketer, whatever you want to call them. And then a couple minutes go by, and I get a notification of a voicemail. And that usually with spam calls, the number that shows up on the ID differs from the voicemail call for some reason. They're tricky, those telemarketer scammers. And I listened to it quick. I always listen to like the first couple of seconds just to, hey, we've pre-approved you for this, or we want to talk to you about this. Your student loans are. And I'm like, I don't have student loans. What are you talking about? And it's a person, starts off, Jeff, my name is Ronald. I listen to your channel on a daily basis. I have for about 1.5 years now. And I've gotten your phone number from someone that wishes to remain anonymous. If you'd like to talk with me and like to hear my experience, please call me back. And then they list their number, and they proceed to then say, oh, and by the way, my experience happened in the area of Dulce Mountain, Archuleta Mountain, which is in Dulce, New Mexico, and Archuleta Mesa, which is Colorado. And I sat there for a moment and thought, like, okay, I don't know Ronald. And I went through, I have a phone book of subscribers that I've talked to, and I always put their name in it with their phone number and email, and I save it just in case I need to get in touch with them, or if they send me an email, I can always, go back. There's no Ronald in my phone book, 1, and there's no number that matches this number, 2, in my phone book. And anyone that I've ever interviewed or talked with, I say, do not, please, I don't say do not, I say please, don't share my phone number with anyone. I will respect your anonymity, and I will respect anything, the terms of this interview. All I ask is please don't share my phone number. And I believe 100% that no one does. So I'm a little weirded out, and I'm a little ticked off, and I call the guy back. And it rings, and it goes to a voicemail, the atypical voicemail where you don't record who you are and this and that. Just the person that this phone number belongs to is not available to speak, leave a message. So I hang the phone up. I don't leave a message. I'm like, all right, this is weird. And I'm weirded out because I'm weirded out, and I'm a little pissed. Because now I'm like, who gave my phone number to somebody? And why isn't this person answering me? They just called me 10, 15 minutes ago. So now I kind of forget about I don't forget about it. I put my phone down, and I'm like, I'll deal with this later. I have some things I have to do. And I run to the store quick to pick up dinner for Isabel. And on my way home, my phone rings. And I'm driving, so I answer it, and instantly I see the number. And I answer the phone. And I'm like, hello? And he says, Jeff, how are you? My name's Ronald. And I said, I'm all right. I'm like, how are you? He said, I'm good. I'm good. I got a couple things I'd like to talk to you about. And I said, okay. I said, well, listen to me real quick. I said, don't take this the wrong way, please. I said, but how'd you get my phone number? And he said, I can't tell you. I promised the person who gave me your phone number that I would not share who did. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm pissed. I'm like, listen, and I literally said, I'm like, listen, whoever gave you my phone number broke my trust, 1. I said, and 2, obviously I've spoken to them, so why wouldn't they want me to speak with them, or whatnot? I'm willing to talk to you, but I would have appreciated a heads up. And he says flat out to me, you never interviewed this person to be honest with you, I don't think you've ever talked to them. And I said, and then how did they get my phone number? And he said, listen, do you want to hear my experience? So I'm at a mix of emotions at this point. And I said, yes. Yes, I do. Yes. And he said, are you driving? And I'm like, who the is this dude? You know? And I'm like, yeah, why? How do you know? And he's like, oh, it sounds like you are. And I'm like, yeah. I said, give me 30 minutes and I'll be home. I said, do you want me to call you back or would you like to call me? He goes, you call me in 30 minutes. He goes, I'll answer. I said, all right, thank you. So I'm do my shopping quick, get home, tell Belle, listen, I'm going to zip you up something quick to eat. I got to take this phone call. I'll fill you in later, bud. All right? Because this is something that interests us as well. My daughter, my youngest baby girl, wants to be a demonologist. That's the career path she wants to choose. My friend Jimmy Patanito, Mr. Haunted, who worked with the Warrens, has pretty much given me information on how to steer her in that direction. I'm not going to tell her no, so she's very, I share this stuff with her. I come downstairs and I sit down and I call him right back. And he answers and he said, hey, all right, here's my experience. And I'm at the point to where now I want to hear his experience, but I want some information from him too. Because now I'm freaked out. Like this phone, like that's my personal phone. I live, my home is where my daughter lives. Like that's my main concern, is keeping her safe. So I'm really perplexed at how this is all going on. And I said, can you just, before we go any further, and I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste my time. I said, if it was nobody that I talked to and nobody that I've ever known or interviewed, how do they have my phone number? And he said, I said, no, what? Then I said, obviously they know me because they put you in touch with me. He said, no, I sucked them out, or I seeked them out, or I am friends with this person actually, and had them get your number for me. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. I'm like, what's your experience? And he said, good. I'm freaked out because of this. 2010. This gentleman named Ronald and his wife and another friend of theirs he is a researcher, UFO, UAP researcher. And he's heard my information on New Mexico. He's heard me talk about anything and everything on this channel. So he knows I have a fascination with New Mexico and the lower part of Colorado. I truly believe that there is a deep underground facility. Right, just, it may not be the whole border, but it extends into, if you know what I mean. And 2010, they drive from Colorado into Dulce. They are going to do a kind of investigation, little research investigation. They want to check out some areas that they believe to be hotspots. So they are in a crew cab Ford pickup with a medium-sized tow-behind camper. And their intent is to drive into Dulce and check out. One, they're going to try and get to the Archuleta Mesa in New Mexico, Archuleta Mountain area, where the deep underground facility is. There's a radio tower there. And there is about 2 miles away from that area, there's a radio station that is an active radio station to this day. They get into that area. They find a dirt road to pull off of. And they first hit the one store that's in Dulce. And they pick up groceries for the next day or two that they intend on being there. Their little camper, as it's medium sized, but it's self-contained. They've got a shower, stove, microwave, everything and anything in it. They stop, and when they go into this store, there's a woman who waits on them. And his wife strikes up a conversation with her. Because she instantly says, you guys aren't from around here. And the wife, they don't do it. The two men do not do any of the speaking because they don't want to aggravate or make this woman feel like she's being put on the spot. So the wife does it, and she says, yeah, we're not from here. We're actually looking into some UFO, UAP, now UAP. Actually, I think it's back to UFO. Sightings, some other sightings of Bigfoot and what people call Dogman. We've heard that there is an area over by Archuleta Mountain that, there's been quite numerous sightings by the locals of these dogmen, Bigfoot, and such. And the woman instantly looks at her and says, "Ma'am, those aren't dogmen." She says, "Those are skinwalkers." And his wife goes, "Well, do they transform? Or are they full-time dogmen?" And she just stands there and stares at her. And she kind of, there's an awkward stare. And then probably 30 seconds later, she goes, "I don't think they transform. No." She goes, "But that's what we call them here. And that's what they are." And she, the wife, the two guys, Ronald and his buddy, they don't catch this, but there's a glint in her eye. Her eye, for a split second, goes vertical. Just split second. And she believes it was only one eye. And right back to finishing, cashing her out, bagging everything up. And they go outside and they're walking to their camper. And they're going to take a minute there. They're going to put this stuff away. Kind of look at the map of everything. And she immediately, when they get into the camper, she said, "Ron, did you see the eye? Did you see her eye?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, when she said, "That's what we call them here. They don't transform, but that's what we call them here." Her eye, for a half a second, had a vertical slit in it. And it looked very similar to a chameleon's eye. Just very, very strange looking. Her husband's friend says something along the lines of, "She seemed awful weird, didn't she? But I didn't see it, but she seemed awful weird." And so now they're kind of like, that's real strange. And they all get out of the camper and they go to their designated spot. They lock the camper up, make sure everything's, put away and not going to jostle around while they're driving. They lock the door, and Ronald goes to the trailer door. Camper door is off the same side the driver's side door is. So he and his buddy walk right. They go from the door to the truck door. His wife's got to go all the way around the back of the camper. And as she's doing this, she turns and looks, and the woman, the cashier, and another man who looked like he worked at the store are both staring at her, or staring at them, just outside of the door of the store. Just like a blank stare. And she kind of waves and says, "Thank you." Like, "I'm creeped out, but I'm going to be nice." Like kill them with kindness, make them feel awkward. "Hey, you're staring at me. Thanks." Like that kind of. And they both just put their hands up and just kind of wave it, like, boop, like that. That's it. And she gets in the truck, and they start to pull out of the parking lot and head towards. They're going to head right towards Archuleta Mountain at this point. And as they're pulling out, this is about maybe 6 o'clock at night. She sees, and they all see, the woman start running from the door, like towards the truck, not towards the back of the trailer, the tow behind camper, but almost towards where her door would be. And she yells, "Holy shit, like, she's chasing us, get out of here." And they pull out onto the road, and there was a distance from the store to the exit of the parking lot. By the time they were out onto the road and turning and going straight down, and she turned to look to see like where she was, she's standing at the end of the parking lot. And she did that wave thing again. So they're driving, and Ronald's wife is worked up. He's trying to figure out what she saw because they could only see bits and pieces. She saw exactly this woman running, like full dead sprint, and not a very small woman. 250, 250-pound woman, maybe 5'6", and she ran rapidly. They're all talking amongst themselves like, maybe we forgot something. What? And she's like, I can't run that fast. I don't think you guys can run that fast. This thing ran so quick that by the time we were pulling out, our ass end of the camper was still kind of technically in the parking area by the time. So she's right there. How did she do that? How did she get from point A to point B in such a rapid pace? They kind of brush it off, but it set the mood for his wife. His wife was terrified. Terrified at this point. She had actually, everyone was very excited about this trip. And at this point, she doesn't want to, she would much rather go back home than proceed to the trip. They find this little pull-off road to get to the backside of where Archuleta Mountain is. As they're pulling in, it's very beautiful there. Almost like, kind of like the cowboy movies, the old cowboy movies. You can see the mountains. You have this kind of flat, not flat, but pretty close to being flat, kind of cliffside. It goes straight up another mountain. What would be like the top would be a plateau, I think. I'm not sure what they're called, but just this flat rock wall, part of the mountain, just naturally occurring. And you see these natural occurrences all throughout the Southwest, in Utah, everywhere, California. And so they're pulling in, and they're kind of looking at everything, and they're on a dirt road. Ronald's friend says, all right, he's like looking at the map, and he said, I think there's kind of a dead end down here. Why don't you, go all the way down, make sure there's no houses here, make sure we're not trespassing. And we'll turn around and we'll park so the truck is facing outward. But how, by doing that, their door would be facing the rock wall. So they do, and they loop it around. There's no housing. There's just empty landscape, just this empty, barren, very barren land. He said just driving into it and then kind of heading out was very uncomfortable. They all had that feeling of that foreboding feeling, that empty feeling. It was a very empty area. And, they have been camping and researching stuff. And it was a feeling that they had never felt before. He said the best way to put it would be, it was almost like we were on someone's property and we weren't wanted there. But this is not private property. This is no one's property. It's public domain. There's hiking trails in this area. Just that's how we felt. So they park and they proceed to, get out. They're looking around and they kind of realize, well, shit, we now have probably a 20-foot area between our trailer, our camper, and a rock wall. we really can't, set up. We can set up chairs, but we're going to face in this rock wall. Should we turn the truck around? And the Ronald's friend says, nah, let's leave it as is. We can, if we want to hang out outside, we can just set some chairs, on the back side of the camper, and, we can walk around the truck to get in. He goes, at least this way, if we need to get out very quickly, we can. We won't have to screw around with turning around. Night goes by, and they all have that feeling. That feeling never left them. That foreboding, that empty, unwanted feeling. They ended up having dinner, and they are sitting outside. They're looking up into the mountains, and they're looking at the Archuleta mountain area. And he believes that what they saw was what could have been and what clearly looked like a helicopter. He said, but it was silent. There was no noise whatsoever. He said it was dark. We could see a little bit of, there was that distant purple in the horizon, but it was getting real dark. And there was this light that just turned on, and we watched it rise, and all of us were looking at it, and it flew like a helicopter. It did not fly like an aeroplane. It did not fly like anything they had ever seen. How it took off, how it veered. They were watching the light, and it appeared to be what looked like a spotlight, but it was not shining. There was no projection of the light coming out. It was just almost like a beacon light that was very large and looked very similar to a spotlight. And it goes directly over them. They're all looking up at it. And it goes past the rock walled area, the other side of the mountain there. And it is gone. Going one speed to the next, rapidly just shoots out and is gone. They all are in amazement. They're all questioning each other. Oh my God, what was that? And no clue. They're facing the opposite way of the way they were just facing. And as they're talking about this, minutes later, they're still talking and still looking at that. They hear a howl. And it was the loudest howl they ever had heard. And then they hear another one. It's in the distance. And another one in the distance. And another one in the distance. And it almost sounded like a semicircle around where they were. And, as they were looking this way to where they heard it, they'd hear another one, and they just kept hearing it. And then as they are facing directly that way, there is one directly behind them standing on that top ledge there, that flat rocked area where the door of the camper would be facing. Loud, just as loud as the others, possibly even louder because of where it would have been in relation to them. They turn instantly and look, and they're just and they see what they believe is a silhouette they clearly see a silhouette of this large humanoid figure. Mind you, it's dark. They can make it out from the light. There's no light pollution. It is just, beautiful sky with natural light. You can see this whatever humanoid shape standing that just howled. At this point, their camper door is on the opposite side. So they would have to go around, and the door is, unlocked. The lights are on in the camper. They have like a chair or two outside of the camper. And it's this creature, whatever it is all they see is a dark silhouette of it. Seconds later, Ronald's friend pulls out his pistol. Ronald pulls his out, and Ronald looks at his wife and says, "Let's get the camper cleaned out, or get the camper shut up, put the chairs in, lock the door, and let's get out of here." Because whatever is making these noises has got us almost nearly surrounded. They start to walk around. Ronald's friend, both men have their pistols drawn, walks around this way. Ronald and his wife walk this way. And they are kind of looking up, trying to see if they can see the silhouette. They can barely make it out because of, you're looking up this flat rock face. What they see in the next 10 seconds changed their course of the night and course of the trip for ever. They get to the door and they start to put the chairs in. Ronald's friend is picking the chairs up. His wife is now in the camper and she's turning everything off, making sure everything's set. And she comes walking out, and for some reason they're not looking up. They're standing side by side on opposite ends of the door, talking. She comes out and shuts the door, turns and shuts the door. She's standing on the little rungs of the stairs that they can push in. They retract and fold into underneath the camper. She stands up and she looks, and it's what she sees is, it looked like this thing was now kneeling or possibly lying down, staring directly at them. Redder than red eyes, just focused on everyone right there. And she looks at Ronald. Ronald said, "I looked at her," and she points. And I turned my head and I looked, and I saw the eyes. He said they were so red, almost like brake light red. Instant terror, instant hair standing up on the neck, arms. And it's a growl. They hear a growl, and they see the eyes start to stand up and back away. So they're going up. So that's why he said it could have been laying down or kneeling down, because it was then standing up. And as it stood up, debris from where it had been, from the top berm there, rocks started to fall. And we all instantly jumped into the truck. Starting the truck up, they're pulling out, and they hear wham! The truck does a little jostle, but not much. And they gun it. Just balls to the wall, guns it. They can't figure out if this thing just threw a rock at the trailer. It clearly came from the trailer because of, if it was in the bed of the truck, obviously they would have heard it a heck of a lot clearer. But this was, but it was a loud, like, thump or bang, and a mini jostle of the vehicle. They are now driving back. They decide, screw this. We're getting out of Dulce. We will proceed to, drive as far as we can tonight. Find a camp area in Colorado to camp. They're driving for about 50 minutes to an hour. His wife is, calmed down, adrenaline dump, so she kind of passes out. Which, after an adrenaline dump and then calming down after it is like a sugar high. You're done. So him and his buddy are talking about, what the hell was that thing? And his buddy said, I'm pretty sure it was a Dogman. I'm pretty damn sure. Did you hear that growl? He said, but that thump. He said, what the hell was that? And they're 50 minutes into their trip. They're maybe 7-8 miles out of Colorado border. And as they are just on a desolate road, cruising up into Colorado, they cross into Colorado. They're still talking. Time's still going by. His wife's still out like a light. They're just trying to figure out what the hell. Because now they're like, if that was a Dogman, do you think they were trying to circle us? How the hell did they, and what was that light that looked distinctly like a helicopter? And do you think that lady had any, was there a connection to that woman that his wife said she saw a vertically slit pupil? Sorry about that. Tigger had to come in. So they are about halfway to where Archuleta Mesa would be from the Colorado border. They're following the main road up, the one road that, leads from that area of Dulce all the way up into Colorado. And they're like talking amongst themselves. His wife is still asleep. And all of a sudden, his friend lets out this, like, what the was that? Ronald's like, what are you talking about? Like, they both very loudly, which then wakes his wife up, and she's startled. She turns to look at what's going on. She looks at Ronald, looks back at their friend, and as she's looking back in the back at their friend, she can see the back of the truck, which you can see the back of the front of the trailer in the bed of their truck. And what she sees, and she screams at the top of her lungs, because what he heard when he yelled, what the fuck was that? He heard a growl directly behind him. Like, right in his ear almost. But, they're talking amongst us. So he doesn't dare look back behind him. But because she got woken up, she turns and sees it and screams bloody murder. It's in the truck. It's in the truck. And Ronald, just not knowing what to do, because he's thinking that it's in the truck, lays on the brakes. And as he hits the brakes, all hell breaks loose. The creature, which was a Dogman at this point, they know now because they are face to face with it in the back of their truck, in the bed of their truck, hits its face because he just laid on the brakes. The trailer jackknifes a little bit and snaps the tongue of the camper. So now the camper is like still being towed by the truck, but dropped. And the truck is, it's like a jackknife. The creature cracked the back of the window with its face and head when he laid on the brakes. Truck dead stop. The trailer is now nothing but a heavy ass anchor for a truck that, it's attached to the but its tongue of the trailer is broke off. So it's still attached to the ball, but there's now this break in it. And the trailer is now right across the whole road. He's like this with the truck, trailer's like this, and they got a Dogman in the bed of the truck with a broken window. Thank God it's not broken yet. His friend, mind you, this is all sheer adrenaline and panic, doesn't think, and does probably the stupidest thing, and that's not my words, that is Ronald's words, does the stupidest thing and turns and starts shooting in the cab of the truck through the glass, broken glass, at the creature. At the Dogman that is 4 feet away from him. He doesn't know how any of those rounds, if they hit it, it did not show that it hit it. Because as that glass erupted, this thing is now lunging at Ronald and his wife's good friend. And he only had a revolver, which is now empty. And it is pulling him, trying to pull him out of the truck. And as it's doing so, it is cutting his shoulders, his chest, his neck, his face. It's just trying to, rip him out of the truck. Ronald turns and he tells his wife to lay down, get on the floor. Truck is locked, but get on the floor. And he tells his friend, he said, don't move towards this way, towards the opposite way. He said, kind of push towards the door. And he starts to shoot. They're all deaf now. But he has no other choice because now that thing has got his best friend. And his best friend is bleeding. And you can see the blood. He's got wounds. Like, this thing just started grabbing him. And he's fighting with it. But it's just, keep trying to pull itself in or pull him out. He believes that he shot it 2 or 3 times in the face because it made this weird kind of gurgle noise and dropped back. And then he said, I saw this thing stand up and it jumped. We watched the roof of the cab dent in, it jumped onto the front of the truck, hit the road, and rolled. Like, not eloquently either. Just like, it's just got shot in the face, just got his head smashed in, probably took a couple rounds from his buddy, hits the ground, and stays there for what seemed like hours, but was minute, maybe a minute. Because they're all looking at it going, is it dead? The truck is fucked. The trailer is, like I said, a useless anchor. It stands up and looks back at them. You could see, he said, I could see the damage on this thing from my headlights. He said there was blood coming out of its face. He said, I couldn't tell if the eyes were glowing or if it was the light bouncing off with the blood. He said, but its face, it looked like I had shot it a couple times in its chin and its muzzle, because the lower part of its muzzle was like chipped away and pushed to the side. He said it looked like one of the eyes were closed. And it just stood there for a second, staring back at me. I'm staring dead at this thing. He said, I've got my pistol is laying on top of my steering wheel, aimed right at this thing. And it just runs to the right off of the road into the woods, which are not dense woods. If you're familiar with that area, there is some denseness to the woods, but it's not like an Adirondack forest, a Manistee forest. It's not like a state park forest. This is just shrubbery, pinyon pine, whatnot. And it just kind of, but he said how it ran. It ran like it was definitely hurt and quite possibly on the verge of death. He said throughout the last 15 years, I've thought about how this thing, how it ran. It might have wanted to attack us, but I think it knew it was going to die. He said, you know how when a cat gets hurt and it's near death, it runs to hide and die away from everything. He said, I think that's what this thing was doing. He said, we're trying to figure out, we're looking at my buddy. He's bleeding. My wife's on the phone. She's trying to call 911, let everyone know where we are. He said, I put the truck in drive because I got to figure out, I got to get this trailer out of this jackknife position. So I'm pulling the front of the trailers, just dragging on the ground. I get the truck almost straight. I had to drive 500, 600 feet up the road to get it straight, but my truck was screwed. The trailer's just dragging. As we're pulling up, I didn't realize there was a ditch. The trailer gets caught in the ditch, dips down into the ditch, pulls the truck. So now the truck is teetered into the ditch. And like he said, we sat there for it felt like an eternity. It felt like the world stopped and went in slow motion. He said, because the trailer caught and went in, and I had no control of it because of how everything was going down. He said, but the second that trailer started to go, the truck went. He said, it was almost like one of those cartoons. He said, but as I'm looking straight ahead, and my wife is still on the floor. She's got her phone yelling into the phone, and I believe they were talking to, he said, I believe she was talking to 911 still. He said, I see lights coming. And the next thing I know, the truck's off the side of the road, into the ditch and on its side. He said, I'm now practically on top of my wife. My best friend is bleeding all over the place and is slammed against the passenger side back. He's not making any noise. He's not making any kind of sound whatsoever. I'm yelling his name. I ask my wife if she's okay. I look out the window and it's a truck, a tractor trailer, just blows by us. My lights are pointing, out of this ditch up at an angle, and I hear whoop. And then you hear the wheels of the rig lock up. Dirt, 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 dirt. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. He said, I think I passed out, because the next thing I know, the police are there. They've pulled, the ambulances are there, the police are there. They've pulled my best friend out first. My wife is out of the vehicle. I'm still seat belted in, just hanging, and I come to. And the first thing I do is look down to where my wife would be, and she's gone. And I look back at my friend, and he's gone. And I can't hear anything, so I don't know what's going on. He came to as they're pulling him out. He's got a neck brace on. They put him on a gurney to put him into an ambulance. His buddy has already been taken away. His wife is still there in a different ambulance, because he's asking, where's my friend? Where's my wife? Where's my wife? Where's my friend? Where is everybody? What happened? What happened? He's just out of it for a couple seconds. As he's getting loaded into the ambulance, he looks down the road and he sees the tractor trailer. It's stopped. It's 200-300 feet down the road, past his trailer, past his camper, past the ditch. Lights are on the truck isn't moving. It hasn't moved. And he sees what he believes to be white kind of containment suits. What look like white containment suits. And there was a van there, like a government van. And these guys were loading something into that van, but they were in what looked like containment suits. He said, and I quick looked over, because I'm trying to assess the situation and trying to figure out what's going on. He said, and then I remembered. And he said, I looked at the back of the trailer, because he said, maybe, they're in these suits because he was hauling hazardous material or something. But the back of the truck isn't open. And he said, I yelled out, where's the creature? Where is the creature? Where's that Dogman? And one of the police officers that were there walks up and says, you need to stop. You need to stop right now. Don't say any more. And he looked at the paramedics and said, get him out of here. He wakes up 2 days later from a medically induced coma. To come to find out, his best friend is still alive. His wife is sitting. She is unharmed practically. They just took her, put her in a neck brace to make sure. She is unharmed at all. More psychological damage. His wife's sitting, and he looks over, and he's like, confused because medically induced coma, he's not aware of any of these surroundings. He's not. And the first thing he says to his wife is, what did the men have? What were the men doing in those suits? And she was one of the first out. Like, they got his best friend out, and then she crawled in the back and got taken out through the driver's side back door of the crew there. And she clearly saw the police officers and whoever those people were. There was 4 or 5 shots and a dead. She watched this thing. This thing must have came out of the side of the road after being hit by the tractor trailer, and was possibly near death, but then they shot it, got it out of its misery. They contained it. She had been questioned for a full day prior to him waking up. What exactly do you remember seeing prior to your accident? What was the predicament you guys were in? You know, and she said, there was something in the back of our truck. And our friend shot at it because it was trying to get into the truck. And he makes the statement that it wasn't a police officer. It was someone that came in with the police officer, but not a police officer. ABC, who knows? He made the statement, the comment of, so your husband was intoxicated and that's what happened, right? And she's like, no, that's not what happened. She's like, it was in the back of our truck. My husband doesn't drink and drive. One, my husband barely drinks anyway. But he would never drink and drive with me in the vehicle and our friend. Especially with a $200,000 camper. And he kept saying. And then flat out just made the statement of, there was nothing there that you saw. There was nothing in the back of your truck. And if you persist with that story, we will charge your husband with driving while intoxicated and any other kind of crime associated with it, possible attempted murder charges on him for you and your friend, and your husband will do 15 years. So you did not see anything in the back of that truck. You lost control of your vehicle because you guys were driving. The tractor trailer startled your husband as he's driving and swerved into the ditch, and that's what happened, correct? Yes. Statement signed. Forced statement signed because they were ready to put cuffs on her husband while in the medically induced coma and transport him to wherever they wanted to bring him. They were ready. She's filling him in on this as he'd just gotten out of this medically induced coma. And she said, listen, you need to just state what I said so you don't go to prison. He just shakes his head and he asks about his best friend. And he's he's in a room a couple doors down. Several hundred stitches in his body from the accident, and this creature just yanking on him, trying to get him out of the vehicle, or quite possibly using him to pull it into the vehicle. She had, after she signed all of the paperwork, she was directed to go and talk to the friend and fill him in exactly what to say. And then when the police officer and that gentleman in the suit came in, all they'd have to do is sign that statement. Say, this is what happened. You guys have been driving for a couple of hours. Tractor trailer lights came out of possibly nowhere on that hairy turn right there. And he lost control. Ronald lost control of the vehicle, slammed into the ditch. Sounds good? Sounds good. He didn't even bother, because Ronald's wife said to him, the friend, just say this is what they planned on doing to him, Ronald, while he was still in the medical-induced coma. His friend's pissed because of the mistreatment that's going on. And she keeps persisting, shut up, don't say anything more. Just, the guy comes in, and he proceeds to question him. Ronald just states exactly what he was told to say. Paper signed. And probably a week later, he was released. About 9 to 10 days. So 3 or 4 days after he got out, his best friend got out of the hospital. They were also told that by signing this affidavit and these paperwork, what they were essentially doing is saying, this accident was no fault of yours, and we are probably going to tie it in with the tractor trailer company, pay for damages and such. None of this is registering. He's now seeing just how corrupt the government is, just how deeply evil. They're willing to put him. They are willing to. All 4 of those people who were involved in that 5 minutes of high strangeness, they would have all gone to jail, prison, especially Ronald. So everything was signed. Couple weeks later, he receives a phone call, and a gentleman shows up at the house with all the paperwork for new vehicle, new camper, new this, new that, and all said and done, signs it. A couple days later, there's a brand new pickup pulling in with a beautiful trailer camper towed behind it, and he never said a word about what was hit, what happened to it, but he distinctly remembers seeing these cloaked in hazmat suits putting that creature into that van. His wife remembers the shots, and from that point on, it was a blur. He has since gone back to that area. He is his best friend The events that transpired prior to, along with the accident and along with everything else, he will never step foot in any kind of wilderness. He will not hunt. It's over, So he is still Ronald's dearest friend, but is so messed up because of it. He had lost so much blood. His shoulders, his back, his chest, his neck, some of his face, just, really not any kind of accident or any kind of interaction with these creatures. He's fucked for the rest of his life. He's got scars on his face, scars on his neck. The wife still goes through some PTSD periodically. He, since then, did do the drive. He drove from his home that same trip and to try and put some memories back into his head, but it didn't work. They had been visited a couple different times by the men in the suit, or the man in the suit that had accompanied the police officer, just pretty much saying, probably best that you don't talk about this and this and that. And he just, it's a tragic case. He drove it. There's bits and pieces of it that he can't remember. When he went down into the Archuleta mountain area, he had actually pulled in, found the road. There's a road that actually is where the kind of mesa area would be, where that creature was looking down at them. There's a couple houses now that have since been built that are only 3 to 5 years old. But he had walked along that ridge and looked into that now development, and could quite clearly see where they would have come. Whatever happened to the carcass of the one that was in the back of the truck, the one that jumped down, no one knows. And how this guy got my phone number, I don't know. So that's Ronald's experience. Pretty tragic, pretty crazy. But I don't put anything past our government, especially if they're working for the 13 families, the Luciferian agenda. Just doesn't work. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.